शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन अनेकजन्म संसारसागरतरणाय तस्मै श्रीगुरवे ॐ वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। ॐ नमः शिवाय शान्ताय शङ्कराय नमो नमः। Namaskaram to all of you. Hari Om. We are in a very auspicious junction today because the topic chosen for today and also the forthcoming important event of Guru Purnima is on the list. You have been hearing about the topic of bhakti from different monks and devotees, what I gathered from talking to our Sri Harishji. Bhakti is a huge and an expanding topic. All along ages, people have been defining and then explaining bhakti, and there seems to be no end to this wave of bhakti. In fact, in one of the famous lectures from Colombo Almora, the lecture titled Saints and Sages of India, where Vivekananda quotes in a very beautiful and in an emphatic way what has India been doing for the last thousands of years except producing saints and sages. And it seems as if the whole country is oriented, and in a way the default system of India is to have this sense of bhakti more and more. In spite of all the technological advancements all over the world, the ceaseless craze for Tirtha Yatra, pilgrimage to Kedar, Badri, or Chamundi Hills, or to Tirupati, or to Rameshwaram, it doesn't seem to end at all. It's growing more and more. And especially being in Kerala, I find people are flocking to Shabarimala Ayyappan. It seems he is the hero of this age, Ayyappan. So hundreds of deities are capturing, attracting, keeping the mind of Indians spellbound. And this bhakti is one of the most fantastic pain bomb. Long years when India was a slave, and we were reeling under utter poverty under British rule, when they were sucking every drop of our blood. We find Indian sages Tukaram, Namadev, Kanakadas, and Purandaradas, Mirabai, Andal, Chakkubai, Janabai. It's an endless list, 63 Nayanmars, 12 Alvars, sending the whole country reeling under the spiritual ecstasy due to devotion for God, singing and dancing in the name of God, forgetting all the material discomforts, anguish, misery, and the torture caused by Britishers. The whole country was set rolling on the wave of spiritual bliss. How could this happen? It is because of the bhakti that is in our blood. Bhakti is one of the extraordinary blood corpuscles in the Indian psyche. It is natural, and it is this bhakti which is saving us from the catastrophe of psychological doom which other countries are facing. Lots of psychological problems are taking place even due to corona and COVID in other countries, where in India we are able to divert the tremendous psychological stress created by the material or the developments in the external world, causing a lot of anguish, fear, and making situation quite grim and severe. During those severe testing times and the times of crisis, we Indians and our mind is able to go towards God. And even now we are trying to find solace in the extra mundane thing called God, something which is transcendental. And though it may look like something like a utopian idea, a phantom or an illusion, we are all saved because of bhakti and God, and we have not got mental derangement, or people have not gone mad due to corona crisis because of God and bhakti. This is genius of Indian rishis and munis. One Mr. PS is hiding. He can come little to the center of the screen so I can see him clearly. Mr. PSG, you come little this side. They are all, Dr. Srinivas also is on one side. So I had one, how to stop these WhatsApp messages coming? It is obstructing the screen. We can't put off that, no?
Dr. Srinivas.
Can we put off the WhatsApp messages from coming?
Guruji. Okay. Swamiji, can you hear me, Swamiji, now?
All of you are talking, because this is online. I must be having the eye contact with the devotees, and you are all sitting there on the screen. In between, the WhatsApp message is coming and hiding the screen.
Swamiji, you have to stop the notification. Go like that only. Drag down.
Okay. You will be able to see me, is it not? In spite of
yes, I am able to
see. We are able to see you, Maharaj. Yes, that is not a problem for us. Maybe it is causing problems to you.
So what happened was, one day I had gone to the Subramania temple, which is the lifeline of Haripad. Because without Subramania temple, Haripad will die. And that is the main prana for Haripad. Subramania is the deity for this, our city. One man was praying to Subramania, crying, and tears were rolling down his cheek. And he was shouting, "Oh, Subramania, Muruga, what you have done, you are more wretched than a politician. Politicians, at least we believe they will tell lie. But you have disappointed me. You have rejected me. I prayed so much to you, yet in spite of it, I could not get all those things." So he went on using different words to scold Murugan, Subramania. And after some time, he took prasadam, chandanam, another thing, and he was coming out. Then I asked him, "Brother, you are scolding so much Lord Subramania. What has happened to you afterwards? Are you successful, or what is the result, the end result of all these things?" He gave me a wonderful reply. You see, that layman, how Indian rishis, yogis, sannyasis, and munis have devised this thing of bhakti, where we can supplement all our things to God and put and cry in front of Him. And how it has saved the life of millions and millions of ordinary people. When I asked him, he told, "Swamiji, what Murugan has done to me or not, I don't know. But after going and shouting and unburdening my total grief in the heart, I became totally calm and quiet, and the mind is very peaceful, and all the anguish and the misery is removed." Otherwise, what will happen is, this man will have to take evil ways to cheat another man, go in the crooked ways of fooling somebody else, or unethical way he has to follow, or go to gundas and all dadas and contact them, and do things which are not ethical, moral, and spiritually right. In addition to that, he could withstand the mental pressure instead of going to psychologist or psychiatrist, paying thousands of rupees, taking sleeping tablets and other things. just by devotional prayer, shouting and scolding. Even scolding is called ninda stuti in bhakti. Lord is pleased with the person who scolds him because he says, at least he's contacting me. Instead of taking to evil ways, as Krishna says, Artho Arthat Jignasu Jnani Cha Vardhara Shiva. All these people are my devotees. They want money. They want to remove the crisis in their life, get out of the miseries. But instead of undertaking all underground methods and evil and wrong methods, they all come and get connected to me. This getting connected to God is called BSNL. Not Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited, it is called Bhakti Sanchar Nigam Limited. Getting connected to India is BSNL, getting connected to God. This is the speciality of Indian Bhakti, that when there is misery, you go and cry to God. And when there is success, then we go and laugh with God. God, it is because of you we are successful. So both in the misery and also during the times of joy. Success is a slippery path, like failure is a thorny path. Both are problem. That's why Krishna says, Sukha Dukkhe Same Kritva. Make the mind balance in Sukha and Dukkha. How you do it? Get connected to God. It may look a false humility. When something happens, we say it's all due to God's blessing. It is due to God's blessing. Though it may look like a seeming elusive humility, but still it is better than arrogance. Slowly, by cultivating that, the bhakti saves us from mental imbalance. So this is a beautiful aspect of bhakti. It is one of the samskaras. Samskara of Indian psyche. A true Indian must have the samskara of bhakti. Vivekananda, in his famous analysis of the world countries, he says, each country, as it sprang up, chose different occasions and the profession as their lifeline. Britishers chose business as their lifeline. European countries chose military power as their lifeline. Some other people chose something as their lifeline. But Bharatavarsha chose spirituality as its lifeline. And nothing can be more beautiful than this. And he gives a beautiful expression that countries after countries came, attacked, invaded, conquered, and massacred millions of Indians. Where are they now? And yet India lives, because India is clinging on to the eternal principle of truth, eternal God, and therefore India is living, other countries have gone away. In one of the lectures, in a poetic way, he says, there was a time when at the trumpet call of the Rome, the whole earth trembled. The Greeks' eagle was floating over everything that was covetable on this earth. Where are they now? Gone are they, with not even a tail left to tell their tales. Capitoline Hill is a mass of ruins. Spider weaves its web where Caesars once ruled. What a beautiful expression. Spider weaves its web where Caesars once ruled. We, the conquered nation, we are again and again bouncing back and living, sending messages with peace in front and blessings behind it. So this is one of the marvelous country, Bharata, the Punya Bhumi, as Vivekananda says, if there is any Bhumi, it is this Bharatavarsha, which is the Punya Bhumi. And it has been sending out sages and saints continuously non-stop, as if it is a national occupation. So bhakti is the national occupation of India. We may have material poverty. The same bhakti in age-old Vedic times triggered the material prosperity. Now we lost that glorious approach of the bhakti and reduced bhakti to a segment, particular segment of our life, and that is what caused the downfall of India. And we will look upon bhakti in that aspect today. If it is possible, we may have to have 3 more classes on bhakti, because there are different dimensions to bhakti. One dimension which I am going to take is of this. The second dimension is the bhakti dimension of Gita. And speciality of Gita's Bhakti Yoga, the chapter number 12, is that there is no God in that chapter at all. That is one of the beautiful approach of Krishna. See, Krishna is talking about bhakti, but in that chapter, Bhakti Yoga, there is no mention of God at all. That is the most striking feature of that Bhakti Yoga. Normally, we associate bhakti with God, but Krishna's Bhakti Yoga is a tremendous psychological revolution. most of us avoid that because it is an easy path not to change ourselves. Changing oneself is one of the most drastic things that can happen to us. That is why it is told that bhakti is one of the most loving way of committing suicide. How do you commit suicide in a loving way? You are totally erased and God alone is there. In the famous song which is sung by Anup Jalota, ऐसी लागी लगन मेरा हो गई मगन वो तो गली गली हरि गुण गाने लगी. Beautiful lines are coming like this. मीरा सरिता सागर में समाने लगी. The river Meera entered into the Sagara ocean Krishna and there was no more Meera. Total annihilation of Meera. This is one of the most sweetest and the most beautiful and the most sweetest pain in life, that you are not there and you have got merged with God. It's called Virahadapa. Virahadapa means tremendous pain, yet you like that pain. While you reject and try to avoid other pain, this pain of separation from God and separation leading to merging with God and oneself losing into Him, individual, merging into indivisible. So the so-called individual limited joy merging into indivisible joy. Ahankara merging into Akhandakara. This is a fantastic explosion of joy expressed in the Anandavalli in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Uha. Everything is born in Ananda, it stays in Ananda, merges into Ananda. So this Ahankara, the devotee, when he merges into Akhandakara, God, there is a tremendous explosion of that infinite joy, and therefore it becomes one of the most sweetest pain in life coming out of this bhakti. The blossoming flower of bhakti is the joy, the most sweetest pain, merging, identifying and mingling and becoming one with our Ishtadevata God. We are no more there. So ultimately it says you are the problem. When you are not there, the problem ceases. So bhakti has got different dimensions which Krishna shows, and there is a third portion of the bhakti where devotees in a really purified, refined and highly elevated level of emotion. There's a true typical classic bhakti which we find in the life of Purandardas, Tukaram, Namdev, Eknath, Muktabai, Andal, Srinyana Sambandar, and so many other saints where this is totally pure bhakti of high class, like the Carnatic music. It's a high level of bhakti. It's called para bhakti, which ordinary people, we can't even envisage or even imagine how it is happening. Everything looks unbelievable. Everything looks highly suspicious. Can Krishna come and give that what you call Mukurti, the nose ring? How it happened in the life of Kanakadasa? It happened. How the Kanakadasa Kindi appeared. No mason was there, nobody cut the window in the wall, but when he goes and since Krishna turns back in Udupi and that window comes, is it not? That's a Kanakadasa Kindi. These are all most unbelievable and one of the most miraculous things, transcendental things. This is another level of bhakti beyond the purview of our ordinary mind. That we can take it as a third part. So today we will go into the first part, how in the present situation, the so-called bhakti, the devotional aspect of spiritual life can be utilized both for our personal and the national and the universal benefit. How we can do it and how we can trigger both the material as well as the spiritual development in life. Because at the existing level, which is called the Gauni Bhakti, the lower stage of bhakti, we do require food. Even we require donation, you see. We can also go under the tree and live in the forest and cave. But when we come out and preach these glorious aspects of Vedanta and Upanishads, when the worldly works have to be taken, projects have to be taken and done, money is required. Cash Narayana, not Kashi Vishwanatha, cash Vishwanatha also becomes important. And as Sri Ramakrishna says, Vedanta cannot be preached to empty stomach. People must have food. So the ordinary basic needs, which was lacking in India, that has triggered in a way the spiritual downfall also. In Vrindavan, which was overflowing in milk and honey and butter and everything, people need not have to bother about material things of life. Mundane things never bogged them down. They were never hanging on this material discomforts or material problems. They were so full of wealth and prosperity that they had enough time to pour their hearts in at the feet of God. They could play with Krishna. Hundreds of things were happening. And if there were any poor people, the people who were materially rich, they were sufficiently generous enough to feed the poor people. And therefore, even poor people in those days could devote their time for the higher pursuit of devotion to God, or searching for God, or spiritual pursuit they could take up in their life. Whereas in the existing situation, in addition to the mind having come down, we are also really pulled down by the material needs. Ordinary material needs have to be satisfied, because essentially our personality is made of body, mind, heart, intellect, and then we come to the divine aspect of our personality. So the initial basic needs must be attended to so that the bhakti can blossom or flower in our heart. For that, we have to apply bhakti in its different aspect. As Vivekananda says, he says what we now require is not the Vrindavana bhakti, where they were singing and dancing and chanting the name of God and doing all those things in a very, very lovely, wonderful, prosperous, and a very joyful way. Now the whole country has to develop, come to a level of material, a stage of material development where the ordinary lower pangs of hunger, unemployment, other things do not strike us down, and the human soul can take to the higher flights of bhakti and spiritual development. Why it has happened is because we have reduced bhakti, the word bhakti, to only the so-called spiritual or religious life. We feel bhakti is connected, or it is getting involved only with God. That is how we have been utilizing this bhakti. And one step, if we go up, then we somehow connect it to Desha Bhakti, love for the country. But we have been utilizing this in a very, very ritualistic way, and we have imprisoned the word bhakti to the limited concept of day-to-day worship, going to temples, applying vibhuti, putting flowers on our ears, little singing songs, bhajans, etc. And all those things, like many other rituals in life, like annaprashanam, marriage, and different rituals are going on in our houses. We have divided bhakti as secular and spiritual. So we think bhakti is, like we have divided into secular and spiritual, we think bhakti means something connected only with the spiritual and religious aspects of life. So what happened is that we have created a dichotomy in life, worldly part of life and the spiritual part of life. And there are some businessmen called Chettiars in India. They say, dharmam tani, vyaparam tani. Sometimes we used to go to them and then they say, you are giving donation. Instead of giving donation, why don't you give the materials at a discount rate? Or you give the materials freely? They will say, Swami, vyaparam, business is separate. Then dharmam, the charity for holy purposes, devotion, that is separate. In a way, they are right, because we should not mix and merge. But in a way, it seems that how it will affect is, we have to be honest only when we are in temple. But when we come to business, we need not be honest at all. You see how the dichotomy, the fragmentation, creates such a huge gap, and the gulf is very difficult to bridge. And only when it gets bridged, when bhakti enters into business, what a tremendous change it will create. If bhakti enters into business, income tax department will be left without any job of raiding anybody's house. They need not have to hunt behind all these people. 400 crores from Punjab National Bank would not have gone out. Why it is happening is, we have reduced bhakti only to the dimension of religious purpose or for the so-called spiritual purpose, or we have kept it with the stunted growth at the level of our religious life only. It has got a stunted growth, that we are not applying bhakti to all aspects and all dimensions, all areas of life. So there are hundreds of aspects of life which are having problems, which are not touched, or they remain unconnected with bhakti. This we have to understand, And then slowly, as we start understanding and feeling that I am restricting bhakti to only one, what you call the one drive or one part of my total disc area. So I am partially honest and good man, and other areas I am not a good man. So that is a difference, that in spite of all our so-called boasted bhakti, India full of devotional feelings, refined emotion and connected with God, talking of philosophy, darshana, yoga and all things, we are not materially progressing. Now in
Maharaj, your voice is breaking.
breaking up, what can be the reason now?
We are not able to hear your voice.
What can be the reason? Now it is okay?
Yes, yes, Guruji. It's clear now.
When you are not able to, just
Now
raise
it's
the
clear.
hand.
Yeah, it's clear.
Where it is going out. I don't know what can be the different problems. Each one have got their own complaints against each other. But we are finding it very difficult to do things. This is happening because life has become fragmented as a religious life, office life, married life, family life, social life. Everything is small piece, it is there. So the emotion which is attending to them, it is the same single emotion, my own emotion. Is it not? It is my own mind and heart which is attending, and therefore bhakti, we are not using or utilizing bhakti as an elevating element in every aspect of our life. And that is one of the reasons why other countries which are not believing in God, they are progressing materially and we are not progressing. Recently, I heard about one of the famous leading spiritual leaders in India. And he told, one day I was going in my car and there was a red signal. I stopped my car at the signal. It was night 1:30. There was another car coming behind. He was going on honking and telling, what the hell, you have stopped the car? There is nobody on the road. Then he came near his car and told, fool, you move ahead. And he told, why, there is a red signal. A signal is red, but nobody is there on the road. Your car can easily move. You see how it comes right.
No voice.
No,
Swamiji, we are not able to hear you.
This part of different parts of life are not getting connected to bhakti. Why have we limited bhakti to a particular gadget type of a thing? We can use certain gadgets only for particular purposes only. We can't use it for every purpose. Air condition, it can be used only for air condition or maximum hot condition. More than that, we can't use air condition when we have got examinations here. When we have problems in our house, air condition, that equipment or gadget cannot help us. Similarly, we have reduced bhakti to such a limited and a very fragmented aspect of our life. Bhakti doesn't come and relieve us from our sufferings caused in different areas of life. That is where the saints and sages differ from us. And that is how for them the divine help, the divine grace, or the divine sustenance comes and lifts them. That is why in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, we find that he did not limit bhakti to getting connected with God alone. His God is different from our God. Therefore, his bhakti is totally different from our bhakti. In Tamil, there is a famous saying, how is God? Without being here and there, pervading the entire universe is Supreme Brahman. So the Supreme Brahman or God is everywhere. Like Prahalada, when asked by his father, where is Narayana? He says, where he is not, you tell me. He is everywhere. So if he is everywhere, wherever we are getting attached to, whichever persons, whichever places, whichever objects we are getting attached to, everywhere this bhakti must spring forth. That is, it should get activated. Like we are doing, many of the softwares have to be activated. Our bhakti is not activated in every aspect of life. Whereas God, the relation with whom or connection with whom is called bhakti, is all pervading, is immanent, transcendental, everywhere inside you, me, is in the tree, is in the rivers, is in the forest, is in the animals, is in the black race, is in the white race, is everywhere. But what we have done is we have imprisoned God only in one particular area. Therefore, the all-pervading or all-encompassing effect of God and bhakti towards Him is not taking place in our life. When it becomes all-encompassing, it is called WHOLE, whole. That which is whole, it alone is holy. That which is not whole or fragmented or part, it cannot become total or holy. It is not Purana. Actually, bhakti by itself is a Purana emotion. What you call emotion? Purana bhava. It is not a partial bhava. When bhakti comes, there must be a total transformation in our heart. That's a real bhakti at the higher stages of bhakti. Lower stages of bhakti, there are different steps. Not that we don't have bhakti, but how can we apply it in such a way that it brings some amount of solace, insulation, some amount of comfort, some amount of a feeling of uplift it should give to us in our day-to-day mental plane, so that things or events of life do not throw us out of our balance. For that, this bhakti has to be utilized in a most judicious and interesting and in a inspiring way. We have limited bhakti to temple. We have limited bhakti to idols. We have limited bhakti to puja, arati, sandhya vandana, and those limited areas only. Why is that bhakti is being limited to that area? In reality, bhakti is one intense, continuous, refined and uplifted emotion flowing towards God. So when emotion is to be purified, it should get unified. Bhakti is a unified flow of our bhavam, hridaya bhavam towards God. Now our emotions are not unified, but it is distracted. We have got some connection emotionally with the boss, some connection emotionally with the country, some connection emotionally with the neighboring country, Pakistan, some connection emotionally with China. So hundreds of branches, like a branch of a river, tributaries of the river, our emotions are flowing in different directions, in a distracted and divided way. But when bhakti comes, what happens? The entire emotion comes, gets collated, and then flows in one single unified flow towards that object. That is why in bhakti, concentration becomes the essential aspect. When you are thinking of God, if you think of something else, if your mind wavers, then it is not called bhakti. One day, Rani Rasamani, who built the Kali temple, she came to the Kali temple when Sri Ramakrishna was worshipping. As Sri Ramakrishna was worshipping, suddenly he looked at Rani Rasamani and gave her a slap. That became a big scandal during his life. The temple owner, the Rani, is being beaten by the priest Ramakrishna. But Rani was very, very happy and she felt uplifted because the very touch of Sri Ramakrishna. It's told that samsparsha matrena nrinam samadhi. Sri Ramakrishna touches Narendranath, he goes into samadhi. Another touch, he comes down. It's a fantastic thing in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Just if you look at somebody, they will be so filled up with emotion of bhakti that they will start shedding tears and start dancing. The very look, kataksham, sparsham, everything, Ramakrishna was like a tremendous radioactive personality of spirituality. If you stay near him, one of his disciples, Turiyanandaji, says, one day I was in the Panchavati, Sri Ramakrishna came from his room and just stood near me. My kundalini started going up. Tremendous radiation and emission of spiritual current that if you go near him, the whole room, the whole Dakshineshwar temple used to vibrate. Whoever will go inside, they will be affected by not coronavirus, the bhakti virus of Rama. You cannot escape. There are hundreds of such incidents. That is a subject for another talk. So Sri Ramakrishna was totally infused and suffused with this bhakti. So what happens, wherever and whatever he touches or whomsoever speaks, bhakti oozes out of him like the sweat oozing out of our body. From our body, some sort of smell and sweat oozes out, but from the body of a real devotee, bhakti, the feeling of love, the purified and refined emotion will ooze out. So when that unification of emotion takes place, that is why we find that many of our devotees are finding it difficult to work in the office, work in some of the government organizations, or work in the schools, because the mind is so unified, so purified, so refined that the worldly ways of living, it becomes a torture for them. Either they will have to resign or they will take voluntary retirement. Once I was in Salem, one of the devotees, Natarajan, I still remember, he came and made a Sastanga Pranam. I told, what is the matter today? Today I have retired. I told, everybody is retiring. What is special? Without taking corruption, without anybody charging me, I have retired. I was a treasurer. Men above me and men below me, they were all forcing me to take bribe. And I was daily praying to Sri Ramakrishna that without taking bribe, I should come out of this network of corruption and bribery, and I should be able to successfully come out. Otherwise, what happens? These people, out of jealousy, will put a wrong case against you. Try to fix you on some scandals or something. So he told, today I am absolutely relieved. Bhagavan has saved me. So when the bhakti comes, what happens? The emotion, the feelings, everything becomes so purified, becomes so soft, so sensitive that you can't go here and there like this. That is why the bhakti becomes a very, very tremendous force, and at the same time, the initial stages, it gives a lot of difficulties because it is purifying, uplifting, refining the total feeling in our mind. So we can check whether such a thing is happening to us by looking at ourselves, self-examining us in our day-to-day life. When such a bhakti comes, even at the initial stages, it's a tremendous change in the outlook about life. There is a feeling of expansion, the division or the fragmentation, you and me, the higher caste and the lower caste, me, myself, you, yourself, your property, this will slowly vanish. The distinction between the house and the country will vanish. So whole thing is getting so unified in our mind that we will not feel that my house is separate and the country is separate. And this is what is creating progress in Japan. We are so afraid to keep the houses open. But in Japan, if you keep your house closed, it means you are not honest. What is the reason? One of our Indians staying there, he told, the houses must be kept open, Swamiji. Why? Because anytime there can be an earthquake, the children must be able to come out of the house. So because of the earthquake also, the emotions are so refined that they are not afraid of thieves. There are no thieves in Japan. Because for the sake of thief, you have to close your house. If you close the house and if there is an earthquake, when the police and the shelter team will come to your house to evacuate the children or the infants, house is closed, they all will die. The houses must be always open. And that lady who told this story, she told, my son, he had gone to take bath in the public bathroom. There are so many toilets and bathrooms are there. Even in Malaysia, after every 100 kilometers, there is a bathroom and toilet. You can take bath, refresh yourself from the tiredness caused by the driving, and then become fresh and drive again. He told, by mistake, he kept the purse there. After 1 week only, he remembered that he is searching for the purse. It is not in the house, but it is in the public bathroom. When he called them, they told, yes, sir, we have kept it in our office locker. Please come and collect. So how the emotions, when it is purified, it removes the greed from the mind. So it is not my purse and other man's purse. Every man's purse is my purse. So that is how, like in the House we have got sieve. What is it called in Kannada? Challada, challada. We put wheat flour, rava, and then salikir. What you call salladai. In Hindi, it is called chasni or channi. Like the tea filter.
Jarade.
Jaradi.
Jaradi.
Cross wires are there, is it not? If you remove the wires, the whole wheat flour or rava will fall down as it is. In our mind, these crisscrossing wires are there. This is called want and not want, or don't want. Likes and dislikes. So the whole experience, the whole approach of our life is everything gets filtered through this sieve, S-E-I-V-E, Jalada. So what happened? Oh, that is a Pakistan cricket match. We should win and he should not win. Is it not? Because we have got the liking for, there is nothing wrong in that at a lower level. But when you rise at higher level for bhakti, you will enjoy the pure joy of victory in the sport. If Pakistan plays nicely and they win, you will clap. If India plays nicely and win, it will clap. But now what happened? Our emotion is polluted and contaminated by you and me. Likes and dislikes. It is called raga, dvesha. So this creates such a contaminating and polluting effect that the so-called affection, when purified, becomes love. When still raised to higher level, becomes bhakti. Bhakti, love, affection, attachment, all are the same emotion at different grades of existence. Higher level it is bhakti, then it becomes love, then it becomes affection. Affection also is an expression of love only. Love is an expression of bhakti only. Then attachment. To a God with whom you have developed bhakti, naturally you will be attached. To the God whom you are attached, you will have a lot of affection, like Kannappa Nayanar. When she was one eye was affected, Kannappa Nayanar gave his eye. You know the story of Kannappa? Tamil Nadu famous Kannappa Nayanar was a Shiva Bhakta. So that becomes again love, and that turns into bhakti, all comprehensive, all pervasive emotion in a man. So when that comes, it is called Parama Bhakti. So defining bhakti, Narada says, what is bhakti? Sa tu asmin parama prema swarupa. The whole nature of consciousness, which is called attraction, tremendous power of attraction. The whole galaxy, star, sun, moon, everything is hanging like, because some force is attracting them and keeping them in that space. Moment that force is gone, everything will scatter here and there and they will crash and burst and explode. So everything is kept because that is the attractive power of God in the universe, called Akarshanam. One who does Akarshana is called Krishna. Akarshaiti iti Krishna. Krishna consciousness means our consciousness is constantly attracting. This consciousness present in the whole sense objects, in our own senses, constantly attracting each other. But this is at a lower, contaminated and unrefined stage. When we find it is the same divinity interpenetrating to the whole universe in the objects, in the senses, the whole feeling, emotion and the attraction, force of attraction becomes one. It becomes one single unified energy flowing toward that one goal, God. Because there is nothing existing in this world except God. God alone is true. Everything else is changing and a different manifestation and expression of the same God, is it not? It is God which has become matter. In one of the higher levels of realization, Vivekananda one day says, I feel that one end of the existence is God, the consciousness, the other end is the matter. Both are one and the same. That's why in the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a Padosya Vishwa Bhutani Tripadasya Divi. This world is the feet of God. So we must worship the world, is it not? Padosya Bhutani. Yasya Mahima Bhuvi. This universe, this world is the Mahima of God. But what we are doing, throwing atomic bombs and releasing virus to affect everybody. So indirectly our bhakti has become a corrupt practice. Universally, why we are fighting? Because there is no bhakti. Leaving aside the fact that it is God's Maya, Leela, play. But when that bhakti is implemented in our day-to-day life, the whole scenery changes. Coming back to Narada's definition, bhakti is parama prema swarupa. That bhakti's seed, germs are in us also, every individual. But in our life, what happens is that bhakti comes out as not parama prema swarupa, it comes as adhama prema swarupa. It is adhama, not parama, at the lower level, which is totally defiled. It is like a black money. We have got plenty of wealth, but it is not white money, it is black money. We have got prema, but it is like black money prema. Adhama prema at a lower level. Why? That supreme thing, like a diluted milk. When milk, pure milk will be pure milk. When you put water, it becomes diluted milk. Diluted milk cannot be called as real milk. So one day when milkman was giving milk, the lady asked why today the more it's watery. Then it told, I forgot to add milk to it. Normally people add water to milk. He told, I forgot to add more milk to it. So everything becomes so diluted. Bhakti also has become so diluted instead of getting concentrated. So what happens? Our bhakti is ruled by likes and dislikes. I want this, I don't want, raga and dvesha. That are the two wires going in the sieve called likes and dislikes. When we remove this, what will happen? There is no untouchability. I like everybody. I am not a Brahmin and he is not a Shudra. I like Brahmin. I don't like Shudra. I remember that famous incident in Harish's life. That one day I had been there for the satsanga, and when a servant maid was about to make pranam, somebody else told, don't touch him. Then I was forced to ask, who is untouchable, that servant maid or myself? Because if I am untouchable, the servant maid cannot touch me. If she is untouchable, the question comes, why is she untouchable? Of course, the lady, the devotee who told, she did it out of good intention, because if people are leading impure life, they should not touch us, because that will contaminate our spirituality or pure life. So her intention was very good. Motherly way, she told Swami is like my son. So, but at the time, suddenly I also told, Atman is untouchable, God is untouchable. So nobody can pollute God. If I am the Atman, I cannot be polluted. So the reaction came, who is untouchable, that maid servant or myself? So we all distinguish, the mind is constantly distinguished between this I like, this I don't like, this I prefer, that I differ. So this emotional feeling, but when bhakti comes, there's a fantastic, tremendous transformation that takes place in the mind. You won't have these likes and dislikes. It doesn't mean that you will have a lack of discrimination or you will act without prudence or any judicious sense of applying your discrimination. You will know when to apply and where to apply, but you will not use it as an insulting part of your dealings with human beings or with nature. So this crisscrossing wires of likes and dislikes, raga and dvesha. The whole of bhakti, if you read Sri Krishna, how to remove this raga dvesha, the whole 20 or 22 shlokas, it will be purifying the psychological area of our life. In Krishna's bhakti yoga, no God at all. Because you are that God, you are appearing like this because of your emotion playing tricks through likes and dislikes, through raga dvesha. Due to raga dvesha, what happens? What happens when due to raga and dvesha? Krishna says, Vita raga bhaya kurodaha. You give up the raga, because of raga dvesha, bhaya also comes. Because of like and dislike, krodha also comes. Remove this and come to me. Then I was telling mentally, Krishna, if I give up raga, dvesha and bhaya, I am not me, I am Krishna myself. The difference between you and me is that you don't have raga, dvesha, bhaya. I am having all the three. If I give up those things, Krishna says, you give up, you will find you are Krishna himself. So the raga, dvesha, bhaya, all these things are the crisscrossing wires of the chalana or the sea. And when those are there, what happens? The dual effects come in our life, sukha and dukkha. Whereas in the life of the real devotee, when he has crossed the frontiers or boundaries of lower level of bhakti, you will find sukha and dukkha merges into one. Our God comes to relieve him from dukkha. There is a famous story where Trinyana Sambandar or somebody was thrown into the lime tub You know, in the olden days, they used to punish by throwing into the lime tub. It will burn the whole body. But he told, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Nothing happened to me. A stone was tied to him and he was thrown into the ocean. He started floating. Same thing happened to Prahalada. And same thing happened to Mirabai when she sings Vishka Pyala Rana Ne Veja. Pivat Mira Hasire. How after drinking Mirabai could laugh? It is a dukkha, is it not? Poison is going to kill you. You must be shocked. It must have tremendously hit your heart. You must have felt very pathetic. My own husband Rana King is giving me poison to kill me. Pivat Mira Hasire. Sapa Pitara Rana Bheja. The Rana sent him a box containing serpents. Everything became garland. And they are not affected, nor do they want to take revenge on the person who is acting with them in this way. So the emotion is freed from the raga and dvesha, likes and dislikes. So bhaya and krodha and attachment goes away. So what happens is, the man says, thy will be done, not with a defeatist mentality, but he understands that it is the God's will that is getting enforced in the whole life, in every event of our life, and therefore getting freedom from the likes and dislikes releases you from sukha and dukkha, which are the most tantalizing things in our life. If you remove sukha and dukkha, what more do you want in your life, is it not? A poor man, a middle income man, rich man, man in power, a prime minister, a chief minister, a scavenger, everybody is affected only by these two things, sukha and dukkha. This duality. Krishna says this has got two more dimensions, labha, alabha. Labha and alabha also gives sukha dukkha. Jaya and ajaya also gives sukha dukkha. Ultimately, our life is a river flowing in between the two banks of sukha and dukkha. Why this sukha dukkha comes? Because of raga and dvesha, the two wires in the seam of our life. Once bhakti comes, and slowly as we have self-examination, it need not happen collectively in everybody's life, but individually we can do that. We can individually insulate and isolate from the world. So when things happen, when people misbehave with you, we can create a change in our mind, in our heart, in our emotions. And then slowly if we start transplanting this thought, like transplantation of retina, transplantation of kidney, the bhakti brings about a transplantation of thought and emotion in our mind and heart. Slowly as we start thinking that it is the will of the God, otherwise how it can happen? Let me accept it. Whatever is to be done for that, I will do it, but let me not be emotionally swayed or thrown out of the balance, causing tremendous anguish and pain in my heart. So bhakti comes as a tremendous reliever of pain at that time, psychic pain. Otherwise, most of the people will collapse. So bhakti in our day-to-day life, even if it is at the ritualistic and the lower level of bhakti, it has got a tremendous warming effect on our mind and the heart. There is somebody to whom we can turn, oh God, I'm unable to bear the pain. Why you have given this to me? By telling, shouting, you release the gas and pressure out of your mind. But you go on suppress it. Go on keeping it inside. What happens? You develop suspicion about others. You develop complexities in your life, different viewpoints gather in your mind, and then you become a total psychic disaster. Outside you may be feeling very sophisticated and very, what you call as a makeup. Beautiful makeup is there, a show is created, but inside it will all be what you call festering soul. Outside, hi, how are you? You give a shake hand, you smile beautifully, you talk nicely, and you look very smart, and everything is maybe going on. But when bhakti comes, he'll be so simple and he'll be very honest. Oh Lord, I am so totally depressed. What this man has done? Why you didn't take care of me? So by that way, in a psychological maneuvering of our own emotions, slowly we put everything at the feet of the Lord. So transparency happens in your mind and heart, that you yourself are able to release and unload and remove the whole thing festering source from the mind. I have told my God, let it happen. What He wants, that alone is happening. If what I plan, that alone has to happen, then I could have created fourth world war also, it is not happening. Why in the world war, in the house itself, whatever I want, it is not happening. Why in the house, in my own mind, what thought I want, it is not coming, is it not? Mind control becomes a big problem, because I want to think of God, something else comes. Why? Because I don't have total freedom in my own mind. How can I expect other people in my house to give me more freedom? Is it not? If you go on analyzing like that, we are not free, first of all, from our own self. My mind says early morning, let us have a cup of coffee. I also many days succeeded and failed. I thought 10 o'clock or 10:30, we would like to have a cup of coffee or tea. Then I told 1 week I didn't take. Then another day, mind itself says, nobody says, mind says, let us have a little less coffee. Not half a cup or full cup, but quarter cup. Then I thought, fellow rascal, who is that? And nobody, myself, I am the rascal. I only wanted to give up coffee and tea, but my own mind says. So every aspect of life we find, as Krishna says, Uddared Atmana Atmanam, Atmaivahi Atmana Bandhu. We are our own friend and enemy. These things are happening. But when slowly as this refinement, purification, uplifting of emotion takes place in our mind, due to the whole emotion getting one-pointed, focused, where the indications of blossoming of bhakti are there, slowly we find that a tremendous change in our approach to life, tremendous change in our outlook to life, tremendous change in our action, our response will happen. So the first response that will happen is the division between holy and unholy things will vanish. It is happening in India and it is becoming a big rage for criticism. Somebody, they say, oh, this man has applied cow dung all over the body and they are all basking in sunlight. But in India, it's called Gomayam, Gomutram, cow dung. Everything is very pure and holy. But these people have got so much discussed. Oh, cow dung. Oh. But cow dung is a germ killer, it's a germicide. And some people are utilizing cow's urine as a medicine. And cow's urine is a tremendous bioorganic manure for plants. It is more better than urea. So why cow has become unholy and other things have become holy? Even in the Blue Cross Society, people who are all protecting the animal, when somebody kills a dog, there is a great uproar. But continuously cows are being butchered and killed and so many things are happening. Why there is no uproar? If a tiger is killed, oh, animals should not be killed. But continuously animals are being killed, and one of the best social animal, man, is killed hundreds of times in the society. Nobody bothers about man being killed. But they are so much bothered about animals being killed. Man also is part of the ecological system, is it not? Without man, where is God, where is ecology? So the change in the outlook, in the viewpoint of our life happens, then we will think it is not that ashrama alone is holy. It is not the temple alone is holy. Our house also is holy. Our country also is holy. The place where we work, that office also is holy. And the work which I am doing, that also is holy and it is a worship. Everything becomes holy. There is a beautiful observation by Sister Nivedita, the disciple of Swamiji, from whom she learned the Advaita Vedanta. The whole universe is one. The one and the many are one and the same thing. Is it not? Jivo Brahmaivana Paraha. And God alone has become this universe. She says, if one and the many be the same reality, that is Paramarthika Satyam, this is Vyavaharika Satyam. That is transcendental reality, this is immanent reality. And in the lives of saints and sages, we find they are able to have darshan of God in the poor people, in the form of prostitute, in the form of fish, in the form of boar. All Dashawataras are animals except Buddha, Rama and Krishna, is it not? So everywhere they are able to see God. So if one and the many be the same reality, not only all modes of worship, every action of life is an equally valid path to realization of God. It's a tremendous observation. That is how Japan and other countries going to the office and working there. It is a tremendous worship. This is real neo-Vedantic approach Vivekananda has given. Going to the office is worship because it is going to affect my whole life. It is going to affect my whole country. It is going to affect the entire citizen. Are not the citizen Narayanas? Is it not? Tulsidas says, "Sabse miliye, sabse rahiye bhai, na jaane kis roop mein Narayana mil jaye." We do not know Narayana comes in which form. This Narayana and Nara both are one and the same thing. One time talking highly about bhakti, other time misbehaving with human beings. In what way the refined emotion is there, we can judge, we can accept. Bhakti is a sense of love. If I have got bhakti, the aroma, the tremendous fragrance of life, Bhakti is a fragrance, the sugandha of heart. If I touch sandalwood, the scent, my hand also must smell the sandalwood fragrance, is it not? So when bhakti, God comes inside our heart, that must emanate and exude itself in different aspects of life. Then the religious intolerance goes away. If really a person loves Jesus, and if the love of Jesus is in his heart, why he will convert others? Is it not? Because love doesn't want to subdue or enslave anybody. That is a sign of love. We are all having religious intolerance because we have not realized God. That's what Sri Ramakrishna used to say. People who have not realized, they are fighting. Those who have realized, they say it is one and the same. Or if they have realized and say all things are not same, the realization is not correct. This is what Vivekananda says in the Raj Yoga. Some of them stumbled upon the truth in an unscientific way, whereas yoga teaches you to go to the supreme reality in a scientific way. Then you know that the same reality is everywhere. So this change in the vision, because of cultivating bhakti happens, then we keep house is clean, the whole family is holy, the office becomes holy, my work becomes holy. So whole thing undergoes a change. It is a slow and a difficult process, but not an impossible process. We are doing it in Ramakrishna Math. We are not being paid for what work we are doing. Every work is holy. Sri Vivekananda used to say, from stitching of the shoe to Chandi Puja, everything is equally worthwhile and equally honorable, holy, pure and sacred. Cleaning, the first duty we will get in our Belur Math as a brahmacharis, we go to Belur Math for training center is clean the toilets. But the toilet, what it contains, annam brahmeti, what anna has gone through my mouth, it has come out, and then we say it is excreta, it is unholy. Excreta is nothing but in the nitrogen cycle we learned in the school, in the science, that the food becomes excreta. Is it not? There was a man who came to Dakshineshwar one day. He was like a haggardly look he had, and he looked like a very peculiar man, like a madman. People discarded him, did not allow him to take food in the same pangat, same batch they were taking. Hey, get out, get out, get out. They all threw him out. And he's going out of the temple and telling, people are not yet becoming cultured. They told him he's uncultured because the dress is bad, full of dirt and dust all over, the hairs are disheveled. He was a Paramahamsa. Body is nothing for him. These people are decorating the body, but this man is decorating the soul. He says, these people are on the flesh, they call me uncultured, but I feel they are not cultured. He went to the Kali temple and uttered a sloka. The whole Kali temple started vibrating. Sri Ramakrishna comes and asked him, Baba, did you call the Divine Mother? He told, yes, I called the Divine Mother. Did she answer your call? He says, yes, she did answer my call, and that is why the whole temple trembled when she answered. And then he was going, Sri Ramakrishna asked his nephew, Hridayram, watch him. He is a Paramahamsa. He went and in the dustbin, the garbage where all the eaten leaves were thrown, and every leaf had some remnants of food in that, wasted food. This man sat there, 5-6 dogs were eating. He also was eating along with the dog. Shuni cheva shopake cha pandita samadarshinaha. How beautiful is he? What Krishna said, demonstrated in the life of Ramakrishna. That man was eating with the dog. Sometimes he's feeding the dog. He says, now you want to take? No, let me have one morsel. He will take and feed the dog also. And as he was going, Sri Ramakrishna told us, follow that man. He is a jnani. He is a Paramahamsa. Go behind and ask him what is the sign of knowledge. Having acquired jnana, what is the sign, insignia of jnani? As Hridayram was following, that man was threatening, hey, get out, I will throw you, I'll kill you, like that, to frighten him out. But Hridayram, Sri Ramakrishna's nephew, followed him and he told, Baba, what is the sign that a man is a jnani? Then he laughed and he showed a gutter. It was the Ganges, Dakshineshwar temple is on the Ganges bank. He showed the gutter and told, when you will find that the Ganges water and the gutter water are one and the same, how beautiful it is. This is the beauty of India. Unbelievable, incredible and highly credible. If we cannot salute these Rishis and Mahatmas, what scientists are doing? Nothing. They are all like children's kindergarten playing with the dolls. He says the water in the Ganges and the water in the gutter, when you feel the same salilam, you know that you are a jnani. Same gutter water in Iran, Iraq and other places, they distill and take it as drinking water. Recently, a WhatsApp message came that the water scarcity is going to such an extent in the world that one man in Marina Beach, Chennai, has gone to Marina Beach, and while coming, he enters the toilet and he comes out and he takes a cup of water and comes out. Another man says, have you got a bottle of mineral water? I am very thirsty. He says, you already have it. He told, I don't have it. I saw you drinking a disposable cup full of water. He told, nothing. I urinated into the distilling machine. The same urine became distilled and came back as my drinking water. I drank my own urine. Urine is nothing but the water you have drunk. In a way, it looks little very ridiculous, but other way it is one and the same, is it not? Everything is one and the same. And when water scarcity will come, this will happen. And it is told that Napoleon, when he was traveling the desert, and when there was no water, and when the horse used to urinate, Napoleon used to catch the urine and drink it as water. And that saved him. See, the tremendous things of life, it's all happening. And when Hridayram goes and approaches this man, he says, when the water of the Ganges and the gutter will look one, now what is our condition? Gutter water, Veda. Ganges water, Beku. This Beku and Veda. Tamil, Vendum, Vendam. There was a great saint, Ramalinga Adigalar in Coimbatore. He used to say, Vendidal, Vendamai. And Thiruvalluvar says, Vendidal, Vendamai, Ilan Adiserundarku. One who has reached, that person who has got no want and no want, or likes and dislikes, no yandum idumbai ila. There is no misery that comes to him. God is having that state of no raga and dvesha. Once we start getting this bhakti and slowly push the raga and dvesha, we also will transcend sukha and dukkha. So Sri Ramakrishna comes and asks, what happened? He told, that man told that gutter water and the Ganges, when it becomes one, you have reached jnana. And jnana is nothing but bhakti in the emotional way. The same song was repeated to Swami Vivekananda. When Swamiji also, see, all the saints have got lessons to teach us. They suddenly come down to human level, imitate our follies and mistakes, and then they give a transforming and inspiring message through that event. When Vivekananda was in Khetri, Raja's palace, where I joined as a young boy to become a sannyasi, a Nautch girl came in the evening. Raja used to arrange for entertainment. So he invited Swami Vivekananda. He told, this Nautch girl will dance, Devadasi, she will dance and sing, and you also come and enjoy. Swamiji told, sannyasis are not supposed to watch women dancing. It is not our entertainment. So he stayed in his own room. And then hearing that, and this Devadasi wanted to have the blessings of Swamiji. It happened in Shankara's life also. Dur hatare Chandala, like that. When Chandala, Shiva came as Chandala, Shankara told, get out. So Manisha Panchakam, famous Manisha Panchakam. And Swamiji didn't come down. And then these girls started singing. Prabhu More Avaguna Chitana Daro, Samadarshi Hai Namati Haro, Chahe to Par Karo. Oh Lord, don't look at my evil qualities. Your name is Samadarshi, equal-sightedness. Then in the song it comes that one iron is in the butcher's shop, one iron is in the puja room, cutting the fruits for the food and the naivedya. But when both the iron touch the philosopher's stone, they become gold. So I am a Devadasi prostitute, you are a saint, and Raja is an ordinary man. But when both of us come to you, oh philosopher's stone, we will become gold. Then she says, one water is called Ganga, another is called Nahar. It's a gutter. But when the gutter merges into Ganga, nobody calls Ganga as gutter. What a beautiful, what high themes, is it not? It elevates the mind. Similarly, oh Lord Swamiji, when I have come to you and taken shelter, where is the Devadasi? I also become pure by your spiritual touch. So the gutter and the Ganges water becoming one, how beautiful it is. So managing the gutter and managing the Ganges water, both are a problem in India. Is it not? To have proper drainage, it is a tremendous problem. To have Ganges also clean. Now somehow the new government has come and they are cleaning the Ganges. Otherwise we made Ganges and gutter. In the song they say gutter should also be Ratnakar, Gunda also coming in touch of Narada becomes Valmiki Maharishi. Fantastic transformation, is it not? A Gunda, Ratnakar, dacoit Ratnakar came in touch with Narada Maharishi, the great expounder of Bhakti. Satu Asmin Parama Prema Swarupa Amrita Swarupa. This is what Narada says. Narada is the greatest Bhakta, is it not? That Bhakta, coming in contact with that Bhakta, even the dacoit Ratnakar transformed into Maharshi. This is a terrific power that Bhakti exudes. Tremendous fragrance it is put into the life of other man who comes in contact. The famous song of Rohitas, he says, Prabhuji, tu chandan hamu pani. Whole heart, I was an ordinary, insignificant part, nobody bothered. But when, what happened? Anyway, I will go on talking.
No problem.
Prabhuji, tu chandan hamu pani. But I was an ordinary water, but when it was taken to the temple and the sandal paste was preparing,
ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ.
ಹೌದು.
Swamiji, no voice.
ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ಇದು ಮೈಕ್ ಆನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ,
I think he has gone off. I mean, the signal or something, Wi-Fi connectivity is something.
ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ನೆಟ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಹೋದಂಗಿದೆ.
Swamiji, correct, Anand. Yes, I think.
ಅಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದ್ ನಿಮಿಷ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅದು. ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಅದು ನೆಟ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಹೋಗಿ ಒಂದ್ ನಿಮಿಷ ಅದೇ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ.
Okay. Well, let us wait then. Purandar 1 hour ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ, so
ಆಯ್ತು 1 hour ಆಯ್ತು. ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ, ನಾವು ವಿ ಶುಡ್
ಅಲ್ಲ ಅದೇ ನೋಡೋಣ.
ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ ಲೆಫ್ಟ್.
ಹೌದು, ಈಗ ಡ್ರಾಪ್
ಅಲ್ಲ, ಮೇ ಬಿ ಅದೇ ರೀಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ತಿರ್ಗಾ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಮಾತಾಡ್ಲಾ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ?
ಓವರ್ ಫೋನ್ ಯು ಸ್ಪೀಕ್ ಟು ಹಿಮ್.
ಬಂದ್ರು ಸ್ವಾಮೀಜಿ,
ಬಂದ್ರು.
ಬಂದ್ರಾ? ಓಕೆ.
ಎಸ್.
Swamiji, we are not able to hear you, Swamiji. We are not able to hear you. You might have to unmute yourself, Swamiji.
Maharaj, you have to unmute.
That's how it became muted, I don't know.
Okay, no issues.
Now we are good,
Yeah,
Swamiji.
now,
We can hear you.
Yes, now it's fine.
Prabhuji, tumu chandan hamu pani. When pani came and mixed with chandan, ang vas samai. My whole content of water became full of fragrance. I say bhakti kare rohitasa. I was an ordinary, insignificant, useless fellow. I came and joined with you, people calling me saint now. Because ang vas samai. Oh Krishna, your tremendous divine fragrance has filled my heart and my personality. People are worshipping me, but actually I am only a water. Water nobody bothered. But the same water, when it mixed and got into a sandal paste, everybody says, oh, tremendous smell, tremendous fragrance is coming. So water also, in Tamil they say, Poodan serந்து narum manakkum. Along with the beautiful Mallipu flower, the thread which is tying them, that is also smelling, is called Angu Vas Samai. So when the bhakti, the Lord comes into our heart, every aspect, every action of ours will start emitting this tremendous, beautiful fragrance of divinity or holiness. So this is how we see that the house, the office, the country, temple and the ashramas all are equally holy. This we have to learn. So what happened? We don't have divided behavior. In the ashrama, I am a good man, but when I go to office, I am a corrupted man. That vanishes. Not only gods and goddesses are holy, every member in your house is holy. Is it not? Because these gods and goddesses are representing our own forms and we are representing those gods. That is how in the ancient Vedic culture they brought Matradevo Bhava, Pitradevo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atiti Devo Bhava. Everybody is Devata. And Vivekananda added, Daridra Devo Bhava, poor man also is God for you to worship. That is how the Ramakrishna mission has started. This is the effect of bhakti coming into day-to-day life, uplifting the whole country. You imprison the gods in the photos, in the granite images and marble images. Vedanta comes and releases that God and says, in all the suffering and the dying humanity, in the miserable humanity, in the downtrodden human beings, see that God and worship them by giving them medicine, giving them education, giving them whatever help you want. Instead of pouring Abhishekam onto the stone and granite images, pour these things on the Indian citizens, the whole India becomes a temple. The famous utterance of Swamiji during when he came from West, inspiring Indian freedom fighters, break down all your temples, throw your gods and goddesses. For next 50 years, let India be your temple and Indians be your gods and goddesses. If we can do that, in 50 years, India will be free. What a tremendous electrifying message, is it not? This is real, practical, sensible application of bhakti in our day-to-day life. Not that one corner we will have bhakti, and having bhakti, all other people will be suffering, and I will be keeping quiet. Swamiji says, when people were dying of hunger and thirst, these people were worshipping stone images and photos. And the living gods were dying of hunger and thirst, and they enslaved by the Britishers. They never had any heart. They told they're untouchable. He belongs to lower caste. That is why he told no religion in the world talks of human nature in such a lofty strain as Hinduism does. Hinduism says man is God himself. No religion in the world treads on the necks of the poor masses in such a cruel fashion as Hinduism does. He says, you are a Chandala, you are a Shudra, you are this thing, you are that thing, you are untouchable, go and die. And dead gods like granites and photos are getting hundreds of eatables. The living God, my own countrymen, are not able to get one morsel of food. Where is bhakti? Because when bhakti comes, the whole universe will be filled with divinity. It is the same God interpenetrating through everybody, through human beings, through forest, through rivers, through animals. So this application of bhakti must become wholesome, all-comprehensive and all-encompassing. Next point is, not only that puja will become holy, not only chanting of mantras and Sandhya Vandana and Vishnu Sahasranama Parayana becomes holy, every work we do, whether in the office, in the house or in the society, our thought, word, deed, everything should become holy. If we can't do that, only at one corner of our mind there is a bhakti, but I go on telling lie, I cheat people, I have cunning thoughts, I have crooked behavior, that means bhakti has not occupied the entire disk. There is a defragmentation of the disk has to be done. Like in the computer, we defragment the disk, the broken parts become whole, and it becomes more useful for us. So bhakti must invade all aspects of our life. And secondly, we think renunciation alone is holy, is it not? Yes, renunciation is holy. So Swamis are adorable, they are worshipable, everything. So we are saying like that. But where do the Swamis come from? They come from your houses, is it not? We are born to parents like you. There go and make pranam to Swamiji, but afterwards coming here, we forget everybody is unholy. We think other people are not holy, Swamiji alone is holy. That is why that lady in Harish house, don't touch someone. Swamiji is holy, servant maid is unholy. But it is the same consciousness, Atman, Krishna inside that lady as well as inside me. So renunciation not alone is holy. Unselfish service in the house, taking care of your parents, taking care of your children, taking care of the neighbors, and taking care of the poor people in the country and surrounding us, that is also holy, is it not? Not monk alone is holy, everybody is holy, and a poor man is one of the most holiest person. Because through in that form only God comes to us, is it not? There's a beautiful story of Tolstoy, God is Love, where one man, he served 3 or 4 miserable people in the whole day. And before that, God had told him that I will come and give you a vision, darshana. And after the whole day, when he was about to sink on the bed, he asked, "Oh Lord Jesus, you have cheated me again like the politicians." Then the Lord appears and says, "Hello, Mr. John." He says, "Who is speaking?" He says, "I am Jesus speaking." "Oh my God, you have come, you have kept your word. How is it you cheated me and you told you will come in my life today, but you never came?" And Jesus says, "John, I came 3 times as a hungry man, as a poor man, and as a small boy. Every time you honored me with your love and hospitality. If not in this form, oh John, in what form should I come to you?" God is always in our form. Krishna, Rama, Ramakrishna, everybody is in our form. We think somebody peculiar, Kurma Avatara, Varavatara alone is God. No. Vivekananda says, if a buffalo thinks of God, it will think of a huge buffalo. That is the conception a mind can have. If a fish can think of God, it can think of a huge fish. If a mosquito will think of God, it will think it's a huge, big mosquito. Similarly, we think of God, which is enlarged vision of our own self, is it not? Man is divine. So, Jivo Brahmaiva Napara, he has got infinite power, infinite joy, infinite love, infinite compassion. Everything is infinite there. Is limited and it is unlimited. It is Ahankara, which is the shadow of Sachidananda, Akhandakara. But Ahankara and Akhandakara both are different only in Akara. This is Aham, well defined, becomes Soham. That I am that. Is it not? Tattvamasi, you are that. So the contamination in consciousness has taken place once we start applying the bhakti distillation process. Ahankara slowly loses the Aham and it becomes Akhandakara. And when Akhandara comes, we will find the presence of divinity or God pervading the whole universe. That is how the different dimensions of bhakti start acting in our life, creating a tremendous change in our outlook. Everything looks holy, every action becomes holy, house, country, office, everything becomes a holy and a sacred place to lead a very pure and sincere religious and spiritual life. At the same time, in the house, we will not have a dirty magazines, a dirty TV serials going on, everything we are watching. Come to the ashrama, Swamiji, Namaskaram, Pranam Swamiji. That is a partial, a very partisan way of leading bhakti, but it cannot become. That which is whole cannot be cut into pieces and then termed as whole. So this whole effect of bhakti, creating a tremendous fragrance in life comes as we start doing self-observation. And then this bhakti affects every aspect of our actions. Thought will get purified. When we get some wrong or evil thoughts, in a bhakti develops, we will automatically know this is not correct, it is against my conscience. So conscience, which is hushed into silence now, will become dynamic. The first effect of bhakti, which we can find in our life, is consciousness, what is called Manasachi. Kannada, what you call Manasachi? Antarmanas.
Same, Manasakshi itself.
Same, Mansakshine we tell Swamiji.
Manasachi is there.
Mansakshi, yes.
That will first becoming activated. Now we have kept it silent. Is it not? We do anything and then Manasachi is, keep quiet, keep quiet. But Manasakshi is a whisper, the feeble whisper of God. It will become more and more sound. It will say, no, we are going on the wrong path. You are trying to tell a lie. People may not know, but I, the God, also don't do that. So bhakti slowly starts bringing a refinement in our life, and without bothering about what, now we are bothered about what other people will think about me when we are honest or loyal or sincere or dedicated, is it not? But when this element of bhakti enters our life, we will not bother about what other people are thinking about us. Let them bother. I am bothered about my Antaryami. We will try to satisfy him. Tasmin tushte jagat pushtam. If God is satisfied, everybody is satisfied. If people alone are satisfied, if God inside me, the Manasachi is not satisfied, whole world is dissatisfied. So this aspect will come into our mind. We find this in the life of many people. This is called sensible, sane, practical application of bhakti, both for individual and national development. Dr. Kalam, being a Muslim, in every aspect of life, his dedication to work, his sincerity, he saw that work itself is worship. He was also like a rishi, unmarried. Somebody told him, you are a bachelor, unmarried. He told, I am not a bachelor, I am a brahmachari. So how he is conscious, you see? He told, I am not a bachelor. You can understand, bachelor can do anything. He says, I am a brahmachari. So the Hindu beautiful values and refined emotions and ideas he has adopted and practiced in his life. Otherwise, he can't consciously use that word, I am a brahmachari. He was unmarried man at a high level of a high portfolio he held and so much of dedication. He's like a rishi, like the Aryabhatta or so many rishis who are doing scientific research. Banabhatta, Aryabhatta, Varahamihira, so many people with Japamala, they were doing research. Is it not astronomy, this thing and all those things came because of them. Them only, Charaka Samhita, Sushruta. They were all great rishis. They brought Patanjali. So we brought a medical science, Patanjali, grammar, medical science and the yoga. So these people, Kalam also was like that. The whole approach to work also undergoes a change. The actions undergoes a change. Sri Ramakrishna gives a beautiful example in this way, how your day-to-day life will undergo a change. He says there was a Jamindar, he had two servants. One servant always used to come to Jamindar, sit near him and he told, "Oh Lord, Prabhu, you have got a very healthy body. You look so tall and very handsome. Your mustaches and the turn you are given, the twist you are given, the curve of the mustache, that's very beautiful. Your eyes are very magnificent and you have got a gambhirya, majestic look when you walk." And there's another servant who does not come to the Jamindar, but works in the agriculture field, in the garden, and waters the plants, cultivates the vegetables, and then cultivates the farm, and brings beautiful, very good, bountiful yields of rice and other grains. Sri Ramakrishna says, with whom Jamindar will be pleased? The man doing Mukhastuti, like we are doing the Bhagavan Stuti, or the man who is really doing his work. Naturally, Jamindar will be pleased with that man who is carrying out all his work instead of sitting near him and applying butter to him or applying oil to him, simply praising. Similarly, in our day-to-day life also, in addition to the Bhagavad Stuti, we should be able to serve the people who are representation of God in whatever way we can possibly do, help the poor, needy, miserable and downtrodden people. That is how the bhakti helps in our own life. Practically, it will help others also. That is how it becomes a tremendous challenge for Christians and other religions. Why, It is because of service missionary activity. Only whole Christianity is pervading whole India and poor Indians and Hindus are getting converted. And Vivekananda says, because we lost that glorious teaching of Gita, Bhagavata, Upanishads and everything, that God is inside everybody. We forgot. We became so selfish. We became so self-absorbed, self-obsessed that except our temple, our God, our religion, our Shaivism, our Vaishnavism, our Shaktism, everything ours, and we became very small. The infinite Bhuma became Alpa. So real bhakti, when it comes, the original Indian samskara, bhakti will open the floodgates, the doors to all-encompassing and all-comprehensive love. So this is how in our day-to-day life, every aspect of our life should be changed. The thoughts will change, words will change, the way we speak to servants, lower class people, poor people, to juniors, everything will change. And then the way we perform our work with full dedication, full concentration, full application of the mind without bothering about the results. Ma paleshu kadachana. You go on doing it honestly. If the other man does not respond, it is not our fault, nor is it our defect. It is the defect of the other man which he has to rectify. At the same time, have a common sense and a balance of mind to intelligently tackle these people also. Not that in the name of bhakti, one should become a fool. As Sri Ramakrishna says, I asked you to become a bhakta, not a boka. Boka in Bengali means idiot. One of his disciples, he asked him to purchase a vessel and bring it to his room. The disciple purchased the vessel and brought it. Sri Ramakrishna was such a man of transcendental vision. Just seeing the vessel itself, he understood there is a defect. He asked his disciple, did you check the vessel properly? No. I told the seller that my guru is a Paramahamsa, is a Dharmaparayana Vyakti, and all those things. You give a good vessel. Sri Ramakrishna told, "Are fool, a businessman is a businessman. He may think cheating is his way of life. You are a bhakta, but by bhakta being a devotee, I never asked you to be a fool. Bhakti doesn't mean getting cheated, getting hit by others, getting insulted by others, getting put down by others. when necessary, give back also. We must be able to give counter-attack to the challenges when other men are posing a challenge. Not that bhakti means always getting called down or getting humiliated. Not at all. Humility is different. Getting unnecessarily humiliated without responding back is different. There is Atma Samana. God is inside me. Narayana is telling here, be careful, don't insult me. Otherwise, I will also give you back. Of course, there are situations when we should respond back and when we should hold ourselves back during humiliation. It's all sensible and very judicious use of our viveka. So Sri Ramakrishna, did you not put water in the vessel and take it? And when water was brought and put on the vessel, there was a leakage. Sri Ramakrishna scolded him. He told, you are a bhakta, but you behave like a fool. Bhakti doesn't mean foolhardiness or stupidity. You should have checked it. Now that man will have an opinion that these Guru's disciples are all fools. So in our life also, bhakti should give rise to total control of emotions, directed in a very prudent way to all aspects of life. This we find in the life of Ekalavya. When he was denied the concession or the facility of getting education in the archery school of Dronacharya, he applied his bhakti, the power of concentration, called the infinite power of God inside, and he learned everything. At the same time, when Guru came and asked for the thumb, out of Guru Bhakti, he did not even hesitate to cut the thumb and give it to him. So in every action, the Bhakti emits its fragrance. We find in the life of Hanuman, totally dedicated, totally free, at the same time, along with independence, he is totally obedient. Otherwise, in India, what happens? We find it difficult, the leaders to work out ideas. Everybody has got his own ego. Everybody becomes a chief minister in Kerala, they say, I am great. So if everybody goes on thinking like that in individual, there is no synergy, putting of the heads together and working in cooperative way for the upliftment of the country. Each one is pulling in another direction. It is happening in our country. That is why somebody told in the parliament that when some minister spoke, he started opposing. The other man touched him and told, hey, keep quiet. Now we are the ruling party. We are not opposing party. What happened? Now 25 years we were in the opposite party. We were in the opposition. So the whole habit comes forth. Even after they won the election, he was opposing and his friend was telling, now we are not the opposing party, we are the ruling party. Be careful, don't commit this mistake. So everything we should go on opposing, whether it is good or, but in America it is not happening, you see. See, in the beginning when Donald Trump gave problems, they all opposed him. Afterwards, they have put him on one side. They are all looking collectively at the development of the country. So this is called Desha Bhakti. Isha Bhakti and Desha Bhakti, both are almost a reflection of the same God. God is there, is in the country also. Why can't we bring out that God inside our country in serving the human beings, in serving the poor and needy, taking care of the forest? God is in the forest trees. God is in the Ganges. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, don't urinate in the Ganges or Kaveri, don't pollute the rivers. So the whole aspect of life according to Vedanta, it gets metamorphosized in the famous mantra, Madhuvata Ritayate. Let the breeze blow sweetly, Madhuvata Ritayate. How can the breeze blow sweetly? Only when you stop polluting the atmosphere. Now, because of corona, the atmosphere is purified, is it not? Because of lack of emissions, carbon emissions. Madhuvata Ritayate, Madhuksharanti Sindavaha. Let Sindhus, all the rivers pour Madhu sweetness. What we are doing, all the affluents and all the dirty things we are pouring into the rivers, is it not? Is not river God, is not Kaveri our Mata, is not Ganga our Mata, Yamuna our Mata. Why we are disrespecting? Because there is no bhakti. What is the example or identity of bhakti? Swartata. For my own personal need, I don't bother about the collective benefit. So rivers are polluted. Then cow also is now polluted. They say they are now powdering fish bone and mixing with the cow's fodder. So cow also has become a non-vegetarian cow. See how the corruption and greed for money is going on. Olden days cow was supposed to eat only the grass, but now the cow feed is a non-vegetarian feed. Animal bones and fish bones are all mixed with the cow. They say Madhuksharanti Sindavaha Madhvir Gavo Bhavanti. May the cow yield nectar like milk. So everywhere they are talking about this madhu. Madhu means sweetness, ambrosial, amrita. So amrita gives joy, is it not? It gives immortality. But when selfishness comes, swartata, amrita goes away. Bhakti is in a way killing of this swartha. So Sri Ramakrishna says and Vivekananda says this is the gateway to individual and national development. Bring bhakti in different aspects of life, and with that you will find tremendous changes coming both in the individual as well as in the collective aspect of life, and both are mutually complementary and supplementary. So this is one dimension of bhakti, which mostly whenever I talk to youngsters or to people going to office, and personally I also many times I follow, every work is important. Even in the Ramakrishna, as I told, every work is important. How we do the work also they will take care. We may not, if suppose if there is no technical intelligence, that is excused, because if I am not a person who is a expert in doing computer, if I am not able to do computer, I can be excused. But after being taught, if I do the work carelessly, insincerely, or do the work with negligence or lack of dedication, our Swamis will catch. With one incident, I will conclude this thought sharing session. We were in the training center at that time. One of our brahmachari, he was a talented man. He was given shrine duty. He told me this, how Ramakrishna Math looks upon work as worship. He was given shrine duty, Sri Ramakrishna's Garbha Mandira was there. He started brooming the Garbha Mandira. So after he broomed, he was about to mop the floor. The Pujari Swamiji from Belur Math came. He just touched the floor of the Ramakrishna Garbha Mandira temple. He touched it like this and told, hey, there are still dust. It is sticking to my legs. When that Swami told, this Brahmachari told, I am a double MA. Don't talk to me like this. Then Swami smiled and told, he was a senior Swami, you may be a double MA boy, but you are unable to even do the ordinary work of sweeping Sri Ramakrishna's floor, temple floor. What to talk of double MA? You may be a double MA, but you can't do the ordinary work. Where is your mind? The real incident, he told, if you can't sweep, broom the temple clean, how can you focus your mind on God? How are you going to concentrate during your meditation and during japa? Olden days, this used to happen. One of our Swami, Madhavananda's assistant Swami told, he had folded the kerchief like this. We also fold the kerchief and kept. And when Madhavanji was Holy Mother's disciple, he came and told all the four corners of the kerchief are on different direction. That means everything minutely the mind is observing. Then this Swami told, I purchased a 6-inch scale, then kept the measurement and folded. Next time, all the four corners and all the borders of the kerchief, they were all in unison, one single this way. So every small action, work also is worship. So Vivekananda's famous quotation is there, I am not interested in seeing how a big man does big work. I am interested in seeing how a big man does the smallest work. That will speak of his character. So in every small work, there is to be very, very attentive. I heard that Ratan Tata, when he comes out of the office, he will switch off the fan and lights. But sometimes I find many of the ordinary lower level officers, they will behave like a boss. They will say, the switching off is not my work. I am the boss of this department. I am the head of the department. Whereas the company chairman is switching off, but ordinary boss, he feels is bigger than Ratan Tata or anything, he will not switch off the light. So that is why in India we find a lot of such things are going on. Trains are dirty, streets are dirty, everywhere nobody is bothered, they don't take care. So this practical, this is called Prayogika Karma Bhakti according to Vivekananda. Bhakti comes into the field of karma. When it comes the whole life which is part of karma, it brings a transformation, a radical change and leading to material and spiritual upliftment. Yes, with this we will conclude the talk. I think it's not 12:31. What was the time?
Actually, it was 12:30 now, Maharaj.
11 to 12 was the time, no?
11 to 12 was, yes. No problem. Yes, no problem.
Forgot while talking. Yes, another 5 minutes we can share. Our lunch bell has been given. We go like military.
Anybody who would like to ask any question, I can ask Swamiji. Is it not Swamiji? For 5 minutes, he said.
Or we can do one thing. If there is time, we will take. There are 2 more parts of this bhakti.
Okay,
Next
Maharaj.
question.
Yeah, some other time we will take up, Maharaj. Okay,
I
we'll organize
recorded,
that.
I will recorded this.
Purandar, would like to conclude?
Yes.
Have you
Ah,
recorded
yes.
this?
Swamiji,
So,
yes,
have
Swamiji,
you
we have
recorded?
recorded.
Okay,
We
we
have
will get
recorded,
it.
and we are going to put this in YouTube also, Swamiji.
Then you give the link.
It will be sent, Maharaj.
Yes.
Yes,
Purandar,
Swamiji.
you please organize. Yeah. Yeah, you can
We can
conclude,
give,
Purandar.
and then we can conclude.
Swamiji, we are really enriched by new dimensions of bhakti. We need your continuous love, affection, and directions to sadhanas. Please guide us frequently like this. We will approach you and trouble you, but with your love, we also develop. As you said, one lady touched Swami Vivekananda, and she got realized. So we wanted to become realized people with your satsang. Kindly bless us continuously, and we will trouble you like this often with some. Swamiji.
There was
All our
behind, 1 minute. There was a young boy sitting behind this our devotee PS. What is PS? Who is PS?
What is PS? PS Upanish. What?
The 2 PS are there, above and below.
No, Anand. Anand is there. Anand is there. Anand, his name is Anand. PS.
These ideas we apply in our organizational work. Why, Because coming into organization, becoming a Swami doesn't mean that work is to be neglected. Karma is to be neglected. Because Vivekananda is to say karma is your laboratory. How much you are practicing meditation, how much your mind is focused, how much you are concentrating, how much you are developing love, it is in the karma kshetra we can know. Otherwise, sitting in Himalayas and in caves, you can do meditation, but after suddenly you get angry. Those things are not allowed. So this is karma is the Parishodhana Kshetra, laboratory. Yes. Please tell the Shanti mantra and then we can conclude. Purandarji.
Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirmaya
Gamaya,
Om
Om Shanti.
Shanti